Hi friends, it's Amy and I am back with another video for you. And this time I'm going to be doing a booktube tag, and it's just a beginning of the year tag that I saw from the channel Bookables, and I will go ahead and link that video below for you. But basically, it's a series of questions about my reading plans for the year, what I hope to accomplish, what I think will happen this year, and it just sounded like fun, so I thought I'd give it a go. If this sounds fun to you, I'd love for you to do it as well, or to answer some of these questions below. The first question is, how many books do you plan to read this year? And I kind of have multiple answers to that question. I'll start with my Goodreads goal, which is 60 books. In the past few years, I've set that goal higher, and I've even surpassed it. Last year, I read 69 books, but frankly, I just don't know what this year is going to look like. I'm a new mom of 2 toddlers through foster care, and some days I'm not able to read much at all. That being said, I have been doing pretty well so far, and I do want to read more graphic novels this year, so I do think there's a good chance that I will surpass 60 books, but I thought 60 was a good place to start. That's an average of 5 books a month, and I think that's pretty doable for me. So, to answer the question, 60 books, but actually I hope to read a lot more. The next question is, what are some books that you hope to reread this year? And actually there are quite a few. To begin, I'd really like to reread Nevermore by Jessica Townsend, as well as the 2 books that follow that one, and that's in anticipation of book 4 that's coming out this year. This is a series that I absolutely love, and I'll talk about it a little bit more later, but I definitely want to reread the first 3 books in that series before the new one comes out. I also would really like to read Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli, which I mentioned in my top books of the year. The sequel and the last book in that duology is coming out next month, so I'd really like to read Heartless Hunter before the next book comes out. I've also really been feeling like I need to reread Harry Potter. I've been rereading different books from the series here and there, but I've not really done a long reread of the whole series. And I'm actually hoping to maybe do something fun here on my channel and maybe with an online community sometime later this year, so keep an eye out for that. But especially with the new show that's in development, I think it would be really fun to have all of the details fresh in my mind. So I probably won't read all of those books this year, but I would like to start a reread of the whole series. And finally, this isn't one book necessarily, but more of a category. I've been really feeling like I want to read some of the books that I really enjoyed in my teenage years and just kind of see what I think about them now as an adult with very different perspectives on the world. I enjoyed a lot of Christian teen fiction, especially books from Melody Carlson and the Christy Miller series. So I'd really like to look at those again and just see what I think about them now. It might be really cringy, or it might just be really fun. So we'll see. I've also kind of been wanting to reread Twilight, which again might be kind of the same thing. It might be really cringy, or I might find it really fun. So yeah, there are a lot of things that I kind of am in the mood to reread this year. The next question is, what are your priority reads this year? Or what is a priority read for you this year? And I made a whole list of 25 books that I want to read this year. I already shared that video. But there are a number of books that I would be disappointed if I didn't get to this year. Books that are part of a series that I want to read before I forget all of the details of the other books that I've read. The first is Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. I loved the Shades of Magic trilogy, and I was so excited that she wrote another book within that world. And it's actually been a little while since I finished that trilogy, but I think if I don't read Fragile Threads of Power this year, then I am going to have to reread the whole trilogy before I start this book. So that is definitely a priority this year. The next is Ghostsmith by Nikki I can never say her name. Nikki Paupreto. I think that's it. I listed Bonesmith on my top books of 2024, and Ghostsmith is the second book in the duology, and I really would like to read that before I forget the details of the first book. The same goes for Where the Library Hides by Isabel Ibanez. I'm so sorry. I loved What the River Knows, and I read that last year. I definitely want to read Where the Library Hides before I forget those details. I've actually already started Where the Library Hides, so hopefully I'll be done with that soon. I'm having a little bit of trouble with it. And then I have 2 more. I need to read Amari and the Despicable Wonders, which is the third book from Amari and the Night Circus. I can't remember the actual name of the series, but that is a really good middle grade fantasy series. And finally, I need to read The Battle of the Labyrinth by Rick Riordan. I started reading the Percy Jackson series last year, and I've had kind of a long pause between books 3 and 4, so I really need to read that one before I forget the details from the rest of the series. So those are my priority reads for this year, books that are continuations in series that I need to get to. Alright, so the next question is kind of a weird one. It's an author that you won't be reading from this year, and there wasn't really like an author that I read this last year that I hated, so I'll just go with some authors that I'm not really interested in reading. The first is Colleen Hoover. I know so many people love her. I read It Ends With Us and I thought it was okay, but a lot of her books seem really dark and seem to deal with domestic issues that frankly I just don't really want to read about. So I know that not all of her books are the same, but I just don't know if she's going to be the author for me, so I probably just won't read any more of her books. The next author is also kind of controversial, and that is Frida McFadden. She's gotten a lot of hype, and I was actually kind of interested in reading The Housemaid because of how loved I know that book and that series is. And I did hear that they are maybe making a film or TV adaptation of that book, which would maybe convince me to read it, but frankly, I just don't think I really care that much to. I really enjoy a mystery or thriller here and there, but for some reason, I feel like maybe just because it's so hyped, I just am not that interested in reading it. So those are two authors that I probably won't read this year. I don't know, change my mind. Change my mind in the comments if you think I need to. The next question is something new that you want to read this year. And I think I'll answer this with two kind of genres that I haven't necessarily read a lot of, but I have been more interested in reading. The first is sci-fi. I have not necessarily been a big sci-fi reader. I've tried a few and have had a hard time really getting into them. I think I just haven't quite found my niche within sci-fi, but there are a few that I would like to try to get to this year. There's one that I am planning to read with my book club in March. So I think maybe this is the year that I don't know, we'll see, that maybe I'll get into sci-fi. So yeah, I haven't read a lot of sci-fi. I want to try more sci-fi this year. The other is manga. I've read a few manga in the past that I've enjoyed, and this year I think I would like to read quite a bit more, so we'll see, but those are two things that are kind of new that I want to try this year. The next question is a popular book that you would like to read, and there are two series that I would like to get to this year that are very, very popular right now. The first is Fourth Wing. I put Fourth Wing in my 25 and 25 book challenge, and especially now that the new book has come out, it's just all over the place, and I think I'm ready to give it a go. I think I'm actually kind of want to read it right now. So I've heard the writing isn't great, and when I started reading the first book, I was not super impressed with the writing, but I have heard that in book 3, the writing is a lot better, and I think the author is just growing in her ability to write fantasy. So I'm actually slightly hopeful. I've heard it's just a really fun story, so I'd really like to get to that series this year. The other series that I want to get to is the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. I absolutely loved Throne of Glass. I loved ACOTAR. I just, for some reason, haven't picked up this series yet. I've heard from some friends that they didn't think it was as good as her other two series, but also that it's still really fun and still good. So I think this year I'm finally gonna get to it. Next, what are my most anticipated releases for 2025? And I'm gonna go with 4. The first is Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli. I mentioned it earlier. This is the second book in the Crimson Moth duology. The first book being Heartless Hunter. Again, I absolutely loved that book. I was so sucked into the world. And Rebel Witch comes out next month in February, so you can bet I'm going to be picking that up right away. The next book is Sunrise on the Reaping by Susan Collins, which is another prequel to the Hunger Games series. This one follows Haymitch and his time in the Hunger Games, and I am so genuinely excited about this. I actually really enjoyed Haymitch's character in the series, even though he definitely had some issues, and what we already know about his time in the Hunger Games makes it out to be really kind of gruesome and intense, and I think it's going to be really interesting to read about. So that is one that I am very highly anticipating. And then there are two that are coming out in June that I am very excited about. The first is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. And this is a vampire story by her, following 3 different women, I think during different time periods. And frankly, I've just been very interested in a good dark vampire story recently. I love V.E. Schwab's writing, and I think this is going to be a really entertaining and probably thought-provoking story as well. And finally, a book that I have been waiting for years now, Silverborn by Jessica Townsend. This is the 4th book in her Nevermore series, and this series is one of the best middle grade series that I've ever read. One of the best series that I've read, period. It gave me all of the feels that Harry Potter did, and honestly, I might love it as much as Harry Potter, which is like really high praise for me. It's whimsical, it's heartwarming, it has the best adventure, and you will fall in love with the entire cast of characters. And the publication date for this book has been pushed off for multiple years now, and I have been anxiously waiting for it to finally come. When the author shared that it was finally coming, I put it on my calendar immediately. So if there's one book that I am anticipating more than all the others, it is definitely this one. I am so excited. The next question is a bookish goal for this year. And I don't necessarily have one specifically besides trying to read the 25 books in my 25 in 25 book challenge. If I read all of those this year, I will be very happy with myself. So that's probably my one actual goal. And next, a book that is on your TBR that you probably won't read. And I had a hard time deciding on an answer for this one because I feel like the moment that I say that I'm not going to read a book, the more that I'm actually maybe going to want to read it. So I had a look at my Goodreads TBR, which is very lengthy, and there's no way I'm going to read all of those books in my lifetime. But I did find one that I still maybe consider part of my TBR, but I'm doubtful I'm going to get to it, and that is 14 Days, which was edited by Margaret Atwood. And this is a book that is a compilation work of a lot of authors' writing. It follows the people of an apartment complex and their experience during COVID lockdown, where they would meet on a rooftop and I think talk about their lives. I'm not entirely sure, but the concept was really intriguing to me. I like quite a few of the authors that contributed to the book, but I just don't think I'm actually going to pick it up. I think if I was going to, I probably would have by now. And I think because it is lockdown COVID related, I just don't know if I want to read about that anymore. So I'm going to say that that's one that I probably won't actually pick up. Next is a series that I'd like to read this year, and I already mentioned 2. I'd like to read the Fourth Wing series. I can't remember what the actual name for that series is. I'd also like to read the Crescent City series, but I will list one more, and that is the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. My husband John and I started reading the first book together. We were taking turns reading aloud. I know, really cute. But frankly, we just were not finding time to read together, and we just didn't really make it that far. But I was really enjoying what I read, and it is a series that I'd really like to get to. So hopefully this year, even if I don't read the entire series, hopefully I'll at least get to that first book. I am certain that I'm really going to love it. The next question is, what are your auto-buy authors for 2025? And there are a lot of authors that I kind of feel this way about, but in practice, it hasn't really been the case. But I will say I am very likely to buy any book that V.E. Schwab puts out. Jessica Townsend has only been writing the Nevermore series, and because it's one of my favorite series, I will automatically buy any of those books. And really, I love Sarah J. Maas, and I think I will auto buy any of her future books. Next, are there any book to film adaptations that you're excited about for this year? And I had to kind of look into this to see what's coming out this year. I know season 3 of The Summer I Turned Pretty is coming out this year, and that is one that I'm really excited about. I completely devoured that book series over the summer and really enjoyed it. And the Amazon Prime show is all of the vibes, all of the teen angst and drama. It's perfect. I love it. So I am very excited for that. I don't know if this counts, but the new season of XO Kitty just came out on Netflix, and I'm very excited about that. I enjoyed the first season. It's not exactly a book to film adaptation because it's more of a spin-off of a character from the To All the Boys I Loved Before series, but it is about a book character, so I'm kind of including it here. I'm excited about that. Another that I'm not sure counts, but I'm gonna share anyway, would be Wicked 2. I absolutely loved part 1 of Wicked, and part 2 is supposed to come out in 2025, and that is inspired by the book Wicked by Gregory Maguire. So I'm gonna include it. And then also The Woman in Cabin 10, I think, is supposed to come out this year. That has Keira Knightley and Hannah Waddington. She played Rebecca in Ted Lasso. I haven't read that book, but I have enjoyed the Ruth Ware that I have read. So because it has those two actresses that I really enjoy, I think I'm gonna like that. And finally, We Were Liars by E. Lockhart is in my 25 for 25 book challenge. And that is rumored to be turned into a movie or a show sometime this year as well. So clearly, if I read that book, I'm going to be excited for whatever adaptation comes of it. The next question is a sequel I'm anticipating, and I've already mentioned quite a few. The first being Rebel Witch by Kristen Cicerelli, and of course Silverborn by Jessica Townsend, which is probably my most anticipated book of the year. Next, what is a bookish thing that you're leaving behind in 2025? And I'm not sure how to answer this, but I'll maybe say just rushing through books. Because I'm a busy person, I've relied a lot on audiobooks, but sometimes I'm guilty of rushing through books and not really enjoying them or paying attention to the details. But over the past month, I've been doing a lot more physical reading, and it really has helped me slow down and fully immerse myself and really enjoy the books I'm reading. So I guess I'll say rushing. Like, I don't want to rush through my books this year. I want to fully allow myself to enjoy them. Next, what can you expect from this channel in 2025? Well, it's a new channel, so hard to say, but probably my main goal is just to be consistent with uploading videos. I am honestly not very consistent in a lot of areas of my life, but I would like to try to upload weekly on here because it's a really fun outlet for me and because I love talking about books and sharing that passion with other people. So hopefully a weekly video is something you can expect. I'd also like to do some fun challenges in addition to talking about what I'm reading every month. And as I mentioned earlier, I'd really like to do something fun as far as my reread of Harry Potter, so hopefully that's something that you can expect later this year as well. The next question is, how has your reading taste evolved from the last year? And I don't know that it necessarily has. The only thing I will say is I have a new e-reader, and I'm finding that as a mom of toddlers, it is a lot easier for me to read on a device than it is to read a physical paper book. So my e-reader is actually kind of saving my reading life right now, and that's never really been the case before. So yeah, I suppose reading on an e-reader is a new thing for me broadly. I don't know if that's really an evolution in my taste, but it's an evolution in how I read. So yeah, reading on an e-reader is something that's kind of different from what I did last year. All right, I'm almost done. The next question is, who are some booktube creators who inspire you? And I actually have quite a few. I have been watching booktube for many years now, and I've wanted to create this channel for so long. A lot of these people I've been watching for at least 5 years now, and they've been a big part of my own journey in discovering my love for reading again after college, and they definitely inspire me on a personal level in my own reading life, but they also inspire me as far as YouTube creation as well. I'll first mention the channel Bookables, which is the creator that I originally saw this tag from. Heather reads a lot of romance and fantasy and mystery thriller, but she does read really broadly. And she inspires me because she is very consistent, and she is also a mom of young children. So personally, that's inspiring to me to do this because I love it, and that's important to make time for that. Another channel that I really love is Book Roast. That creator, G, is just an incredibly creative person and an artistic person, and I really love what she brings to the booktube community. She has so many fun readathons and reading challenges, and she's just a really positive person, so she really inspires me to get creative on this space. Jadey Rae Reads and Gavin Reads are another couple channels that I really like. I love the way that they talk about books. I love the fun little challenges that they do here and there, and I can always go to them when I'm looking for something new to read. One of my favorite channels on YouTube and one of my favorite creators is Darling Desi. She creates really cinematic videos, but I also just love her excitement for life and especially seasonal reading. She and I have so many similar interests and passions, and especially when it comes to creating beautiful content, I find her to be really inspiring. Her channel is not all booktube, but she does have a lot of bookish content, and she talks about books in a lot of her videos, so I will put her in this category as well. And finally, I'm going to mention Hallie Bush. She is relatively new to booktube, but I've been following her on Instagram for a while. I like her bookish content over there, and I'm really excited that she finally decided to start a YouTube channel. And she's honestly one of the reasons that I decided to actually go ahead and give it a go. When you want to do something for so long, at some point you just need to do it. You just need to try it and see what happens, and that's what happened. Sometimes I really drag my feet on things, and sometimes I'm just really impulsive and do it. And she's part of the reason that I decided to do it. So I'll link all of their channels below so that you can check them out and see what great content they make. Alright, I'm going to have to wrap this up because my little ones are starting to wake up from their nap. But the last question is something that you'd like to say to anyone who's considering starting a bookish account. Alright, my husband just got home, so I have a little bit more time. But obviously, I am not an expert. I am brand new to this as well. But I will say, first consider your why. That probably sounds cliche, but if you're going to share so much of yourself and give so much time to something, you really should consider why you're doing it and if it's really going to add something to your life. If you're hoping that this is going to make you money or make you internet famous, those things usually take a long time. So frankly, I don't think that's a good reason to do it. But if this is something that you think you're really going to enjoy doing, if you really like sharing your thoughts with other people, if you actually like the process of creating videos and editing them and creating a project like this, then do it. You could also always try creating a few videos just for yourself and not share them with anyone, just to see if it's something that you do enjoy. There's not one right way to do it. But eventually you're going to have to actually post something, and honestly, it's scary to put so much of yourself out there knowing that anyone can see it. That can be intimidating. But if you like the content you're making, if you're enjoying doing it, just don't worry about it. You're going to continue to get better, and you're going to find people who enjoy what you're doing, and that's what matters. So I say, just try it. Just try it. Alright, I think that's everything I have for today. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love for you to give it a thumbs up. I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel, and I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. Feel free to pick any question that you'd like to answer from this tag. Feel free to film your own tag and let me know. And if you have any other comments, I'd just love to hear from you. So with that all being said, love you, enjoy your reading, talk to you later.